Did you send this CG thing for anybody for that?
I thought I sent it in an email. Did I not forward that?
Oh, okay, yeah, I saw.
That's
Okay,
They're just going to have a paragraph.
And maybe I'll
Read it tonight. Yeah, it sounds like she's really sharp. Yeah, I'm excited to have Flora on the board.
I am too.
She's like a really good.
She'll be doing a good job.
My computer's up. Oh, yeah. So you can hear.
Can I have one?
I'm trying to think, what do I have in my purse? I should. Some cheese and crackers. I don't know. At least something.
We're picking up Chinese. I'm just supposed to text. We're getting close and they're going to go to the new Mandarin Garden location and pick up
Sorry,
Did you move to Providence?
No, moved to
City Hugh.
in front of, not Riverwoods, what's this? Riverhead Plaza.
Tom, can you hear us?
To River Walk.
River Walk. So it's where the Hawaii.
Yeah, just, the north
Teresa?
side.
So I think it's so that they would drive through and also for carry out. So we can go.
Tom, can you hear us?
Good.
Yeah.
Is he on?
Hey, Tom.
Says he's connected, but he's not.
Are any messages from him? I don't have any messages.
I don't have anything.
Welcome everyone to our Logan Municipal Council meeting for tonight, December 5th. It is 5:30 and we're calling our meeting into order. Just want to check if Tom can hear us over the phone. He was there a few minutes ago.
Maybe he needs to hang up and call again.
Should I text him?
Yeah.
Try to reconnect.
Call has been forwarded to voicemail. Person you're calling is available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
That part.
Yeah.
He may not know that we actually started.
Well, no, he's probably on the phone, and so it just went to voicemail when somebody tried to call him.
Should we proceed?
Yep, let's do it.
I think we're gonna go ahead.
Okay. First up, we have our opening ceremony by our city poet laureate, Shannon Ballin, and we also want to recognize Stark Colebrook, who was a former poet laureate. So thank you for being here.
Thank you to the City Council and Mayor Daines for the opportunity to open a City Council meeting. I am honored to be here. I survived a massive stroke on January 9th, 2022 that left me without speech and without the use of the entire right side of my body. I never quit writing poetry though, and I submitted the poems I am about to read along with 9 other pages of poetry to the Utah Original Writing Competition under the title First Poems After the Stroke. I cried when I learned that I was awarded an honorable mention. I submitted poems to several other literary magazines, and I am proud to report that I have had 12 poems accepted for publication, all written post-stroke. I also submitted my chapbook entitled First Poems After the Stroke to Finishing Line Press. They accepted it and it will be published next May. I'm going to read 2 poems tonight. This first one was published in Kaleidoscope and it's called The Owls. The Owls. In the nest we spot them, 2 baby great horned owls, fluffy and camouflaged to look like decaying tree matter. Huge eyes, flecked with gold shimmer, stare out at us. A pink crabapple petal, thin as tissue paper, clings to my walker. Loosen your grip on helplessness and sorrow. The crocus petals are dusted with saffron, a wash of light on the ash tree, the gold light shining in the owl's eyes. These poems both appear in my chapbook, and this one was originally published in Word Gathering, a journal of disability and disability poetry and literature. It's called The Dream. The shiny taste of rain when I inhale. Love leads us back to the things of this world. The pink roses unfurl perfume. The moon is a white lily about to bloom. Having a stroke erases half the world, half your working body and your voice. The owl in the willow is a ghost. It calls to me through the open night window, calls to me in my dreams in smeared colors. It sounds like wind chimes. My lips taste like lilies, the cold scent of rain on stones, a dark curtain embroidered with light. The owl is a prophetess, singing to me in my sleep. The owl is a part of the willow tree, is a part of my heart, whispering, you will recover. Fragrance of lilies in a glass vase. The crabapple tree is dotted with pearls of rain. My lips taste like water, that is, they have no taste. The rain has turned to snow. It floats down in swirling spirals like falling into a dream. The wind chime speaks in the voice of God, like a waterfall, fluid, like the song of a canyon wren tumbling down the canyon. Last night I dreamed I could walk again.
We have some amazing talent in this community.
We do.
That just touches your heart.
Please stand as you're able, and we will do our Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up in our agenda, we have the acceptance of the minutes and the approval of the agenda for tonight.
I'm sure when I misspoke last meeting and said brag instead of.
I've done the same thing myself, so it's easy to have happen. So I think Esley will make that correction in the minutes.
And I sent Esley a couple of changes as well that she's already incorporated, so. I would move acceptance of the minutes and approval of the agenda for tonight.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Tom, can you hear us now?
I can hear you. Thank you. It's a beautiful opening.
Oh,
It was
welcome.
a beautiful opening.
Welcome. Truly beautiful poems, for sure. It's been moved and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote. Tom?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Jeannie?
Aye.
Ernesto? Aye. We've accepted our agenda, our minutes, and approved our agenda for tonight. Next up, we have just a reminder that our meetings are usually on the first and the third Tuesdays of the month at 5:30 p.m. And our next meeting will actually be in January. The second meeting for this month was canceled by the council. And the next one will be on January 2nd. Hope everybody has happy holidays. I mean, and don't miss us too much if you were looking forward to coming to our next meeting in December. Next up, we have a public comment time. So if you'd like to comment on items that are not on the agenda for tonight, please come up to the mic and state your name and your place of residence, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. All right, we will continue with our agenda. Next up, we have mayor and staff reports.
All right, and with the chair's permission, I would like to introduce Dustin Hanson, the Cache County Election Specialist. Some of you were in on the canvas just prior to this meeting. We have kind of an unusual situation with the elections this year where we had 3 candidates very close in numbers. So Dustin is going to give us an update on what will happen.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Council, thank you for having me. Yeah, so we had a canvas meeting a couple months ago. The canvas was accepted by the council. The big things that we'd like to go over, the Logan City had a turnout of 28.18%, which is about 7% higher than the last municipal, which is commendable. So that's great. Next year we're going to expect pretty much double. So we're prepared for that as an office, and we're really excited about it. I would invite the council and the community to look at the precincts that don't have as high participation and look into why, because we want everybody to participate, and our office is here to help in however we can facilitate that. The big thing that we need to go over, there's 3 races that are within 0.25%, which is the legal limit for a recount. We have audited all of our ballots by the state, and as an office, we've gone through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and that's the data that we have. There's a recount if it is to be requested. We have within 7 days from tonight to make that request. People that want to request it have 7 days to make that request. As soon as my office receives that request, we will announce a recount within 2 days and then perform a recount, which involves putting all the ballots through the machine again. It'll take about 7 hours, and then there's going to be another canvass, and then the results are going to be what they are. So I just wanted to kind of lay that out, and if anybody has any questions, that's what we're going to be doing going forward over the next, hopefully, 2 weeks.
So to be clear, it has to be one of the 3 individuals
Correct.
who make the request.
Yes. So
Okay.
Anybody who's involved within that 0.25% can make that request.
And they have 7 days to do that in writing from tonight's meeting.
Correct.
So,
And then if you would like any election data, it's all on our website, and feel free to email me or the office, and we can go over whatever questions you have.
Thank you.
thank you for your help. All right, item A under mayor and staff reports is a recognition of council member Tom Jensen. And I'm sorry he's not here in person tonight. I'm delighted he's listening. And on behalf of all the council members and myself, Tom, we have appreciated you, enjoyed working with you. You have truly served your community well in so many ways. And we do have a little gift of some Bluebird chocolates for you that I will deliver to your house. But again, just a little something. Yeah, well, if I can keep Amy's hands off them, I'll move them away. But again, it's been a pleasure to work with you. You have so many talents, and you have such a good way with people, and you look at the issues, and we've appreciated your input. So we will miss you as you go on to other things, but thanks for your service. And
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you so much. I wish I could be there, but the health situation obviously is preventing me. I want to know who's delivering the chocolates and how many pieces were started.
I will deliver them, I promise.
And I hope that I can come in the near future, when I'm able to walk and do things a little better, that I can say goodbye and thank you to you personally, so that we can, have a personal situation rather than over the phone. So that's up to the new chairman.
Sorry, was that everything? We're having a little bit of trouble hearing on this end, but we do hope you can come in person in the near future. We'd love to have you back.
Thank you.
But I don't think you get another box of chocolates. All right, thank you, and I'll move on to the next item. Item 6B is we have, Logan City has 4 appointments to the Cache Valley Transit District Board, and we have a vacancy in one of those spots. And Flor Estrada has been nominated to serve, and I just like to read a little bit about her. She's been in the Valley for a long time. Her family lives in Logan, and she works for an accounting firm in Providence. She has a master's degree in accounting from USU and has been an active supporter of the Latino Entrepreneur Group that's been meeting for the last couple of years in the area. So we think she will do a great job on that board, and we appreciate her willingness to spend her time and energy to serve. So thank you to Flor, and assuming the board will ratify that.
I move we ratify the nomination of Flor Estrada.
I'll second that.
And I wanted to add, I personally know Flor, and I am very supportive of this nomination. I am impressed that she always makes time to serve our community, and I'm glad that she's accepting to be nominated for this. It's been moved and seconded. We'll do roll call vote. Tom?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Jeannie?
Aye.
Ernesto? Aye. So Flor Estrada is ratified.
Perfect. We will have Todd Butler contact her and give her all the information she needs about meetings and details and get her on board. And that completes my report for this evening.
Great. Next up, we have a Planning Commission update by Jeannie.
There isn't one this evening. They haven't had a meeting since our last meeting, so.
Next up, we have our action items for tonight. And first up, we have a public hearing for a consideration of a proposed sale and transfer for commercial property, specifically Plaza 45. Kirk Jensen will walk us through that.
Okay, good evening, Council. As mentioned in the agenda, the city is proposing to sell a parcel of property that it owns that is located at both 41 and 45 North Main Street. There's 2 storefronts there. The building is commonly referred to as Plaza 45 building. And, it should go without saying to a degree that the city has intended to sell this building for some time. An RFP, a request for proposal, was issued in January of 2022. And since that time, of course, there's been multiple conversations, both budgetary and from a design standpoint, regarding the new facade on the building and how it's going to be funded. All of this headed towards an eventual sale of the building. However, we are required as a city, anytime we're dealing with a significant piece of property, that we hold a public hearing both to allow you as the council as well as the public to offer any thoughts, opinions that they have on that. So that's where we're at this point. What's driving this is the project's completed, and the city has received multiple letter of intent offers. And so as the mayor reviews those, it's nearing that time to make a decision and go forth in a particular direction with a certain potential buyer. So just to create more context, most of you, not most of you, all of you know where the building is, but for anyone in the public that may be, asking themselves, what is Plaza 45? Maybe, that's a little bit of jargon perhaps. I've got an image there, an aerial photo, which shows highlighted with an orange boundary the Plaza 45 building, directly fronting Main Street and across the street from the Tabernacle.
I think we need to rename it just 45 North Main.
Because we have a plaza, right?
Yeah, we have a plaza.
And there's the plaza, so for more reference, that was completed opened November 25th to the public. That's exciting. And the building that we're selling, the 45 building, is immediately south of the plaza. And there is a photo from this afternoon of the facade, Main Street facing facade. And you can see on the left, the lighter tan is the 41 North Main storefront, and the larger center building is the 45 North Main storefront, which kind of wraps around.
Are they being proposed to be sold separately or together?
Together. Okay. And they sit on one real estate parcel, land parcel.
Okay.
Points of emphasis for the city as the mayor continues to, consider these offers that have come in is, first, what is the repurposing plan with a particular emphasis on a proposed restaurant and or other food uses for that ground floor that, help, that work synergistically with the plaza. And then also the timing of completing those tenant improvements and the timing of the startup of operations. So nothing new here, but just thought I'd point that out. And then obviously the purchase price, whatever that comes in at. So essentially, that's what we have for you. Again, this is something that we knew was coming, but we're just presenting it as not a formality, but that step of the process, which is important to have a public hearing for any additional thoughts that you or the public might have.
And all the return money that we receive from the sale of this property goes back into the RDA?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Any other questions for?
No.
Great. This is a public hearing. If you would like to comment on this specific item on the agenda, please come up to the mic and state your name and your place of residence and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
It's an exciting public hearing night.
Yeah, I saw Mark about to jump over there to come and talk, but.
No, he doesn't jump and come to talk ever.
This just makes sense. It's part of the plan.
Bring it back to the council, and we do not have to vote on this specific item, so we can move on then to our next item.
This is something we all, this was part of all of our discussions, though, is that the city would not hold on to this property, so.
Right. The private sector will do a much better job at managing that than the city. So we look forward to completing that transaction when we have the appropriate agreement in place.
Good. Next up, we have a similar item. It's another public hearing for what used to be I guess what's still is the Logan Fire Station 70. It's supposed to be station.
That's another one that was always part of the plan. When we
Yeah.
bought the new property for the fire station, we knew we'd sell it and recoup that money to help with the property purchase expense there.
Craig, is there anything you would like to
Not
add?
much to add. The new station should be completed in January or February, so it's time to go through this public hearing process required by state code, as this is a significant parcel of property. The property is going to be 3/4 of an acre. Right now, the parcel is 2.1 acres, and there will be a subdivision split, so it will be just the building and parking that's located within the fencing, which is about 10 spaces. And the rest of the parking lot will remain public. That's all that's being disposed of this time.
So the parking within the fence line.
Right.
That's always been occupied exclusively by the fire department.
So it's about 10 spots, you
About
said.
10, 12 spots, yeah.
So, Craig, there was, I'm going to ask this sort of random question, but what is let me think how I'm going to say it. One of the reasons we built a new fire station was because it was determined that the old fire station was not earthquake suitable.
At least for public safety.
So what is where do we sit when it comes to selling it with that piece in there?
So an RFP will be put out, the property will be sold as is. I don't know exactly what your question is.
Well, my question is, do we have any, I mean, we've already said it's not, we've already made a determination about its earthquake stability. Are we better off to tear it down and sell the property blank?
We can sell property as is in its current state, and the buyer is aware, it's not earthquake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we were,
Could I add something on that?
then we'd have problems.
Tom?
Yeah, but when we say not suitable, the requirement for a fire station, police station, emergency, hospital, anything that is of a very vital nature has a much higher requirement than a normal office building. So it does not mean that it's an unsafe building. It just doesn't meet the standards of the fire requirement per the state code.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Not from me.
This is a public hearing. If you would like to comment on this specific item, please come up to the mic, state your name and your place of residence. Keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Good evening. I'm Paul Campbell, Logan, and I'm one of the pastors at Gospel Peace Church here in Logan. We're a brand new church. We launched about 2 years ago in September 19th, 2021. We're a church plant out of Gospel Grace Church in Salt Lake City, a thriving, strong church there of about 11 years old. We're part of a family of churches called Plant for the Gospel Family of Churches. There's currently four churches in the family of churches. One we just added in the Rose Park area of Salt Lake City. We currently meet at 10:30 a.m. on Sundays at the Whittier Center. And they have been so gracious to us and so kind to us. And but we're quickly outgrowing that space. We launched with about 40 members, adult members of our church when we first launched. In about 80 in attendance. That number has risen to almost 150 in attendance. And as of Sunday, 71 adult members of our church. It seems like the Lord is really blessing. We're quickly growing out of this space. Like I said, we're using every single chair at the Whittier Center. We're currently looking for a space. And so one of the spaces that we're considering purchasing is the fire station. And so I want to take some time to introduce myself and who we are, and express our love for the city, our love for the valley, and our deep appreciation for this place, and our love for Utah State University as well. We've had a lot of opportunities on campus at Utah State University, and so we're thankful for that. We have a desire to serve this city and this valley as much as we can, and having a downtown location like this fire station could potentially give us more ways to serve. We want to give the building a facelift. No offense. We want to be ready to be served. We want to be ready to serve in the downtown area. We want to be the kind of people that the city council or the mayor would call first, and we would love to serve however you guys would want us, if possible, if we're able. We want to offer a worship space for those here, those who are here and those who are moving into the state, who may not be a part of the dominant religion in our valley. One thing our church has a significant desire for is a counseling center here in Logan. It's something we've talked about even before we launched, that in 5 years, I can be a very optimistic person. And so I've been casting vision for potentially 5 years, if the Lord would allow, that we'd be able to open up a counseling center. We've had people move here from out of state with the hopes that we would be able to open up counseling center, counselors, trained counselors. So we'd love to do something like that. We've been able to donate time and energy to help with capital improvements at the Whittier Center. Soccer camps, we had a turkey trot, a frozen turkey trot, if you will, on Thanksgiving that we offer to the community. And our people just love finding ways to serve here. So we love Logan, we love our valley, we love the Lord, and we're ready to move forward if the Lord and if the City Council would allow, and Mayor Daines as well. So thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fine, we'll bring it back to the council, and same as last time, we do not need to vote on this. We'll continue with our agenda. Thank you for your comments on those two items. Next up, we have a public hearing for Resolution 23-50 regarding the CAPR report. Amanda will present that for us.
It's really Amanda this time.
Sorry, I missed last meeting.
Fake Amanda didn't do nearly as good a job.
Yeah, Russ did okay.
Thought he did great.
Is that your new name, Fake Amanda?
Okay, I'm presenting the Community Development Block Grants Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, or CAPER, for project year 2022 that ran from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th of 2023. The CAPER reviews the progress of the city's 2022 annual action plan and the 5-year consolidated plan. The 2022 annual action plan is the 4th plan in the 5-year consolidated plan that ran from 2019 through 2023. The main objectives of the consolidated plan and the annual action plan are to invest 40% towards infrastructure in LMI areas, 10% towards the remediation of access and mobility barriers, and 20% towards public facilities and 10% towards public services that support LMI residents. There were 3 projects completed in 2022, and those include the Whittier Center playground floor. And on the left is the old broken tiles that were replaced with the pour-in-place rubber flooring in the right picture. And then next is the 600 East, 500 through 700 North sidewalk project. These are before and after photos of the 600 North and 6th East intersection. And also part of that project is the new sidewalk and retaining wall that was installed along 600 East at about 551 North.
The project was a lot bigger than it appears in the photos.
Right.
It was a huge
That's a
project.
huge project, yeah.
And then the West Willow Accessibility Improvements project that
Also big.
installed approximately 3,000 square feet of sidewalk.
3,000 linear.
Sorry.
Yeah.
As soon as I said that, that's not right. Throughout the west side of the park. It's highlighted in the yellow.
Nice project.
And then for the admin and planning, total costs were $110,000 for the 2022 funds, and that was 19.88% of the total funding received for that year. And any questions?
Nope.
Nice work. I know you finished at least 100 of those linear feet of concrete, right? Yourself.
Oh, yeah, of course. Okay, thank you.
Tom, were you going to ask a question?
No, not on this one.
Thank you, Amanda. This is a public hearing. If you would like to comment on this specific item on the agenda, please come up to the mic and state your name, place of residence. Looks like we'll bring it back to the council.
I move we approve Resolution 23-50.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded.
It's good to see we did what we said we were going to do,
Yeah.
as far as the percentages.
Yeah, no, it's really great.
We'll do a roll call vote. Jeannie?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ernesto? Aye. Resolution 23-50 passes. Next up, we have a public hearing for a rezone, ordinance 23-35. Russ?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a proposed down zone on First North. It's in a historic area of town. It's comprised of several historic homes. The application is to downzone it from its current designation of TC2, which you see here in the magenta, to yellow or NR6. These homes were built either prior to zoning. Most of the properties were built as historic single-family homes near the turn of the 19th century. The long-range plan calls out TC. It does not designate TC1 or TC2, but the anticipation is at some point in time the downtown's going to expand east-west as our population in the city and the valley continue to increase. The downzone doesn't necessarily contradict the long-range plan. It just, and I think you were kind of asking these questions a little bit last time, Amy. It essentially just kind of requires an additional step. It pushes pause on the area, and then requires an additional step in the future for an upzone and a redevelopment. Most of the land uses on the street are residential in nature. There's a couple of offices on the corner. The group home is actually more commercial than residential. And the applicant is here tonight, Dr. Riepel, and he informed us of that at Planning Commission. So currently it's a mixed block. But yeah, essentially the homeowners just, they understand that change is inevitable. They would just like the opportunity to have that additional step that would require an upzone prior to any sort of redevelopment. This downzone would also prohibit a property from just converting over to commercial, like you see on First East or across the street over here on First West, where you see some of these old homes convert to a coffee shop or a law office. That can be done basically with a building permit when it's already zoned TC2 or commercial. But the other side of the issue is it's really appropriate to be commercial eventually. And the Planning Commission felt that since the long-range plan calls it out as TC, why should we downzone it at this point? So the Planning Commission actually recommended that the application be denied, and they voted 6-0 for that denial. And again, it was based mainly on the fluff. The zoning, regardless if it's upzoned or downzoned, doesn't impact the existing grandfathering or the existing structure. So if you've got a structure that's grandfathered or legally established, that owner can continue on. When they voluntarily want to change things or they decide to demolish something, that's when zoning applies, and that applies to a redevelopment or some sort of permit. Another big topic of discussion at the Planning Commission was the Historic Preservation Committee and the overlay zone. And the HPC is charged with preserving historic structures as well as historic or significant, what's the word I'm looking for, events or characters. So we did one the other day of one of the first mayors of Logan, and the structure itself wasn't very spectacular, but the story of being the first mayor of Logan is worth preserving. So mainly they work with structures, and they deal with remodeling or preservation projects and how to do those more appropriately so you don't compromise the character of that historic building. But they really don't get into zoning or use. If you've got a beautiful historic home and it converts to a restaurant and they do it in a manner that retains that historic and character, the HPC are happy campers. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I might have questions, but I'll wait till after the public hearing.
Yeah.
Tom, any questions?
Yes, I do. Russ, would you consider that the homes along the block, there's I think 8 or so, but there's a number of them that are not included, but they're adjacent to. Would you consider that these are of exceptional character?
Did you say professional character?
Exceptional.
Exceptional.
Oh, exceptional.
I'm trying to use your words.
Yeah, they're certainly all graded quite highly, and most of them have retained just a single home status. A couple of them have converted to multifamily. But yeah, they're graded higher. They're A's and B's as the HPC categorizes them.
Okay, so if they are exceptional character, I guess why would we as a city be doing something that would make it easier for them to convert to a commercial?
Well, that's a good
question. And destroy the character.
But they currently are zoned commercial, Tom. And they've been zoned commercial for decades now. And the HPC is charged with trying to retain that character as a new use or a new development is proposed.
I guess what I'm looking at is that if we have an exceptional block here, which has houses that far exceed the quality of most areas in the city, probably all areas of the city, as far as quality. Why are we trying to make it easier for a commercial developer to come in and convert this into a high residential development, high density development? It's hard for me to see that. I think we would be trying to find ways to preserve these areas in other parts of the city as well as this, but this part of the city is unusual in its exceptional quality.
And that's the crux of the question tonight. But to answer that question, I think when you look at the downtown as a whole and you consider our population growth, eventually a single family home isn't appropriate in an urban downtown. And there's exceptions. You go throughout the country or the state, you'll see a beautiful mansion that's been preserved, and then you see taller, bigger buildings around that mansion. But generally speaking, when you grow a downtown, it's a more urban, dense building typology versus a single family home with a front yard and a side yard and a backyard.
Sure. I've seen that, and I agree with that. I've traveled a lot in some major cities, And there are areas where there are exceptional homes which are preserved in and next to the urban core. And I would think that we would try to do all we can to make that as difficult as possible to bulldoze it and turn it into multifamily. That's also, I can talk later, but that's the gist of my question. I think I understand where you're going from, but I'm not sure I agree with it.
And I think if the down zone is successful, it would delay that. Like I said, this might push pause, but I think inevitably the downtown does grow to a point where the pressure requires redevelopment in this area.
What's the current market for these homes right now? I know there's one that's been up for sale for a while. Is it for commercial use or is it for single-family home? Do you know?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean,
the applicant may be better suited to answer that. I know one of the subject properties is on the market as we speak, and they've had a number of offers.
No, they haven't.
They have not? No. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they did have at least one offer, but yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one to answer because I've seen both the conversion to commercial, like the examples I just gave on First West and First East, but I've also seen houses that retain residential uses.
I know we just remodeled an apartment 3 years ago downtown, and it was 800 square feet. It was really expensive to remodel because we had to pull all the old wiring and all the old plumbing and everything out. It was close to $100 per square foot. And so for someone to come in and fix some of these homes, it could get really expensive for a homeowner, but it does make sense for a business to be able to potentially do that and retain its nature, historically as well too. So it's like, what is our objective? Are we trying to keep them single family? Are we trying to preserve the homes? What's our objective? I mean, because if we want to preserve the homes, not necessarily for a single family, there's probably a different way we can do it.
I think based on our zoning and our historic preservation overlay, it's the latter. We're trying to preserve those homes. And maybe there's a development that you preserve those front facades and then you add on to the back and you accomplish maybe some either mixed use. But if you look at our TC2 zone, it's not where you're going to build brand new single family homes. It's a zone that encourages commercial mixed use and multifamily.
Yeah, that's what my question is. Like, you buy the house, $600,000, $700,000, you end up putting another $400,000 into it. It gets really expensive for a home for someone unless you have plenty of money. But a business could potentially do the upgrades and justify the cost. So I'm saying, what's our objective? Are we trying to preserve the homes? Are we trying to keep families in the homes?
And just to confirm, in theory, the Historic Preservation Committee is that?
Yes.
Could prevent, like if somebody purchased a property and decided to tear it down or wanted to tear it down to build something more commercial, the Historic Committee could prevent that from happening?
They can strongly discourage that, but when push comes to shove, a property owner can demolish their property regardless of the grading. And that's just a state property right. The higher the grade, they are required certain levels of documentation that the state historic office requires, so they have to, take pictures and fill out reports. But yes, a property owner can demolish a high grade historic property.
What is the penalty or what is the consequence of doing that?
There isn't a penalty. There's a requirement to go through the HPC process. And again, the HPC, based on the property and the grading, will likely strongly discourage that. And there's also a checklist that the property owner has to go through, and one of those is you essentially have to explore the option of keeping the structure and remodeling it. I can't recall all those checklists right off the top of my head, but
So there's no ability to deny a demolition permit.
at the end of the day, there's not the ability to deny a demolition if they go through those checklists.
Demolition puts it back in its original state. There was nothing there to begin with, so.
There's one way to look at
You're a
it.
bit of a smart aleck.
I couldn't resist. That's what I've been thinking. No, I would just like to know, what is our objective for doing this? It's like, do we want to keep those houses preserved? I think there's a different way to do it. If we want to keep families in those homes, then we go with the proposal.
I think that the objective is to keep it single family and keep single families in there. Then maybe we need to relook at the future land use plan and relook at our downtown plan.
So those kind of go together, you know.
Those do kind of go together.
If you want to keep the families, then we want to preserve the homes. But if we don't worry so much about the single family home, we want to preserve the homes. I think that increases the value of the homes. It's going to be hard for people to purchase those homes and fix them up, get them up to code. I know from personal experience it's going to be expensive.
Any other comments before we open it up?
Don't go far off.
Yeah, don't run away. I've got other questions too.
This is a public hearing. If you would like to comment on this specific item on the agenda for tonight, please come up to the mic, state your name, your place of residence, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
My name is Reed Bolin. Thank you for this opportunity to speak again before the committee. A question. What is the value of a pause button as noted? This does not change the future land use plan of downtown Logan. It's not a change to the current zoning map. It is only, I'll take that back. It is, we're requesting just a change to the zoning map, not the FLUP. And I'd like to comment that at the Planning Commission meeting, Tanya mentioned 2 or 3 times perhaps the possibility of a restaurant going in there. Well, I think that would be very unlikely unless the Utah Liquor Commission or whoever governs alcohol makes a change. The license to be able to serve alcohol in a restaurant on that street doesn't exist because of the proximity of the Tabernacle and the Episcopal Church. So that's not a fair comment or a consideration. I would like to read the 4 bullet points that I went over with and prepared when I was here before. We concur with the concepts outlined in the long-range plan and acknowledge the work that has been done to establish this zone in the long-range plan. The houses on this block are examples of structures referenced in the Adams Neighborhood Plan and in the General Plan for Preservation. They are of value and they need to be protected. We desire, and this is the crowning point here, we desire an open and transparent process if these houses transition to TC2 in the future, where the community and the neighbors can ensure that any proposed project values the preservation of historic structures as outlined in the historic design standards. So what we're really asking for is transparency and the ability to evaluate future development rather than having it all said and done already. And there's enough interest in this that collectively the 8 parcels participate in this rezone request. I can also comment that there are other locations in Logan where the current zoning does not match the future land use plan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else that wishes to speak on this item? Bring it back to the council.
Jean did send a really nice letter today, so thank you.
So Russ, so you said this has been zoned commercial for a period of time. Do you know when this stretch, so it was commercial before it became TC2?
The north side of the block was commercial general in the 1950s.
Okay.
The south side of the block came quite a bit later, I want to say 80s.
It was public before that, since it was a library.
The library piece was public, you're correct. But the subject properties that are farther east were zoned residential until I think the 80s. Let me check that, double check. But when we adopted zoning in 1950, and we had hundreds of homes along Main Street or First West or First East, a lot of those just became legally existing, non-conforming at that point.
At that point, okay.
And some have converted over, some have been redeveloped, and some have retained their residential use.
So from the perspective of Mark's earlier question, it's like, do we want to preserve the historic structure, or do we want to preserve single-family homes?
Yeah.
I think, and as I've been thinking about this, in some ways it reminds me of the overlay we just did for mixed use, like that idea of we put this extra step in, kind of evaluate a project and make sure it's in the best interest of the city and the neighborhood. So it is that little bit of a pause.
Yeah.
So that piece of it I like, but I'm not a big fan of downzoning. Yeah. Something that was, like, we're downzoning back even before the 50s then. If we're changing this to MH6, it was commercial and now it's TC2. So we'd be going almost way back in time to the earlier zoning.
I agree. I think there's other things that we can do to preserve what we want out of it without changing it. But my concern is, this is hypothetical completely, but I think it's not out of the realm of possibility. What if the state comes to us next year and says you have to get rid of all your residential zones? Because I know there's other cities that are doing that, and it's helping with the housing issue. It's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, single-family zoning, right? They want to encourage more duplex and above.
And if that's the case, then it would disappear anyway. So in that case, we would want to put something in place to preserve the homes, because I think they're worth preserving. But we need to have some sort of control over that. So
these already have that ability. I mean, you could convert these homes to multi-units in the TC2 zone today.
Yeah.
The one subject property that recently burned down on the south side, 156, it was a fourplex.
Even though it was a single-family home from the
Even though it was a single-family home from the beginning, but it was legally converted to a fourplex. The TC2 zone, I think, would allow 7 units to go back in there.
the size.
I don't know if that's the plan or not, but the fourplex is actually below the TC2 density.
And just to review, the planning commission did recommend denial, right?
Correct.
What was the?
6-0 was the vote.
Unanimous, right?
Yes.
So on that block as a whole, I know just not on the between 100 and 200 north, most of that is commercial at this point in time, right? You've got the.
Are you talking the use or the zone?
I'm talking the whole block, the current use. Like most of the buildings along 200 north are commercial at this point in time, correct?
So 80% of both blocks are zoned TC2. And use-wise, it's pretty close to that. Aside from these 8 properties,
Because I know 200 North has like the dental office and has commercial buildings along it, correct?
Yeah, this is
North?
the professional plaza
Yeah.
area, and this is all medical or some form of commercial. Along here, these are all commercial. You've got the kind of the reception center. There may be some apartments above, like the bike shop has residential above. This block is mostly multifamily with the exception of the roller rink and the real estate office here. And then of course Anniversary Inn.
Which is commercial.
Which is commercial hospitality. And then I think the rest of this block is residential. And then along 200 East, you see the zoning is NR6. And then these are all residential uses. So that's current zone. If you look at the long range plan, it takes the commercial all the way out to 200 East, or the TC all the way out to 200 East. Did that answer your question?
So changing it though then completely disallows any commercial development in any of those 8 parcels.
Correct.
And you don't want a spot zone. Like if one of those parcels wanted to become commercial, they'd have to come in and ask for a rezone to.
They would, correct.
Parcel.
Russ, isn't there a way that we as a city can recognize certain parts of our city, such as Center Street, both east and west, and other things that have been built and developed high quality, from just putting them on the auction block, basically? Shouldn't we try to preserve these things? Obviously, I am for this proposal and would do almost anything to try to preserve it because I think it has such high quality architectural merit. And we're simply saying, well, we're going to have more people, but there's lots of cities that find ways to have more people and more commercial without destroying the gems that are in the city. You guys are creative, and you should find a way to do that.
So if we look further east, I know you don't have that on the map. So if we look at like those, like Tom just brought up the Center Street homes and things like that, is that all TC2 now too? Where all those historic homes on Center Street are? Is that TC2?
Are you talking east or west center?
West Center, if we head west.
West center is mostly NR6 with the HPC overlay. From First West to the train depot, or 6th West. The train depot is obviously commercial, but those 5 blocks between First West and 6th West are zoned residential.
Okay. So don't we have some TC2 on the west side of Maine though, correct?
Yes.
And what?
Pretty much the area between Maine and First West. I can pull up the map.
Yeah, no,
And then
I'm just curious to see, because Tom just raised that issue of other areas, other kind of gem neighborhoods.
The transition on West Center is the public zone because of the school district offices and the city parking. So there's that half block of public, and then it goes to single family. So it's more like about 150 West is where the single family actually starts and heads west. Do you want to look at that graphically?
Yeah, I'd like to, I think,
Let me pull that
because
up.
it kind of builds into Mark's comment about what are we trying to do, right? Like, so if we're evaluating what we're looking at for FLUP in this area, I think it behooves us to look at it on the opposite side of Main Street as well. Because otherwise, I would just see potentially other property owners coming and saying, I'd like to be zoned NR because I'm in this zone too.
I'm a little concerned about what change would make to the value of the homes too. So if we keep them so that they're just single family, does it make it harder to sell it's going to make the price go down instead of go up. I don't think we want to do that either. So I'm curious about what kind of change that would cause on the value of the homes. I don't think you have an answer for me on that, Rice, so just curious.
Oops. So this cross hatching is the historic preservation overlay.
Okay.
This red line here. And it zigs and zags. It's based on a survey that our consultant did. The subject properties we're talking about tonight are right here where my mouse is hovering. The areas that we just talked about, West Center, is along this street here. And it's called the Center Street Historic District, actually, in the official name.
What's the cross hatching? What is that?
That's the historic district.
Okay, so that is the historic district, okay. But doesn't go.
And so the school district office is right here where I'm pointing, the parking area is right here, and that's TC and public, but then once you get to about 150 west, out to the train depot is all NR6.
Okay. And then going north, it's the same, it's just like that little quarter of a block off of 200 north?
Yeah. Now, when you look at the FLUP, it expands that side of downtown as well. Again, anticipating that we're going to grow downtown in a more traditional downtown character or design. Let me just open it up really quick. It doesn't go as far on the west side of town, but it basically goes mid-block into 150. Let me zoom in a little bit closer. So again, this is Center Street, so this would be the school district. So it expands some of these areas here and then along First West. Whereas on the east side, it goes the entire block to 200.
East. Okay.
You'll see that fairly decent. Oh gosh, sorry. So again, these are the subject properties that we're talking about tonight. And this is the area that you just mentioned, or Tom mentioned on the phone.
So I'm feeling like there's a lot of questions that I just can't wrap my head around right now. So I would actually prefer if we deferred a decision on this tonight.
Is there any interest in considering this as two separate, since we have a portion that is on the north side of that street that is right in the middle of the TC2 zone?
It was submitted as one project, so I think they're expecting one vote.
Is there a rush on this that we have to decide tonight, is what Amy's asking?
Yeah, I'm just saying, I feel like I'd like to think about, I mean, I know I hate doing.
You may want to ask the applicant if there's a rush.
I don't want to negate Tom's vote either, but I'm not trying to do that. But I feel the same way. I would move for a continuance.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, because there's things that I'd like to explore some more as well too. I happen to own a historic property downtown that was built in the 1890s, and there are days that I would like to tear it down and build something better, and there's days that I love what we have. And I like to have the freedom to be able to do what I would need to as a business owner to do that. But when it comes to single homes, I see the value of preserving those as well too, but a lot of it comes down to who owns the property as well. Do we want to limit the ability to sell those homes? Because I think if we turn them into NR6, it's gonna be harder for them to sell. Maybe that's the reason we're changing them. We're trying to make it more difficult for people to do stuff. That's why I'm asking, what's our objective? What are we trying to do? We're trying to preserve those homes. I think there's a better way to do it than changing the zone.
And before we go forward with the vote, I think the public hearing is still open, so if there's further public comment, take that and close the public hearing.
I thought you closed it.
I thought I brought it back.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Didn't he bring it back?
I'm pretty sure Ernesto brought it back.
Okay.
That's when we started
Because
talking.
that's when
Nobody else-
because I
nobody
held
else
my
talked
questions
yet.
till after I thought the
Yeah,
public hearing was
yeah.
over.
We're sure,
but-
so just to double check.
We'll officially bring it back to the council
Yeah. So
once again.
I would make a motion to continue until our next meeting, which would be January 2nd.
Is that enough time to do anything with the holidays, or should we, I would suggest we do it until the 16th.
Are you okay with that, Reed? If we continue? There's a lot of questions I would like to get answered as well too. I think what we're trying to do with this rezone is noble and a good idea. I'd like to explore some other options before we say yay or nay. So, you okay with that, Amy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So whose motion was that?
That was my motion.
To continue
Officially, yeah.
to the,
16th? Is it 16th? Yes, it'd be the 16th.
I'll second that.
16th.
I'll second it if it's not seconded already.
What was that, Tom?
You what?
He seconded.
Well, if you don't, yeah.
2 seconds.
Okay.
So it's been moved and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote. Jeannie is not voting on this item.
Nope.
Switch it up. Amy?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ernesto, aye. So we're continuing this item to January 16th.
Continuing the public hearing as well, or just the action item?
Just the action item. Next up, we have a public hearing for another rezone for ordinance 23-36. Russ, please review this for us.
Thank you. Another rezone for me. This is for the Bear River Mental Health Receiving Center. Their proposal is at 1950 North and 200 West. This is a vacant parcel of land, and it's just over 2 acres. So it's just west of the Auto Mall, the Chevrolet dealership there, and it's north of the street intersection. So this is currently zoned commercial. Surrounding areas are zoned NR6, commercial, and outside of the city. So in the map, the areas that are not shaded are North Logan City jurisdiction. The proposal is to go public. As you recall, recently there were some code amendments that only allow this type of use in the public zone. And so that is what they are proposing. This is just a rezone. It's anticipated, if they are successful, that they would come back with actual building design and a layout that the Planning Commission would review and approve. And so, not surprisingly, the FLUP doesn't call out commercial here. Public here. The FLUP doesn't, it's hard to anticipate public uses like this. And so it's not surprising that this is commercial in the FLUP. And then the DR to the left, that's basically single family residential. It's part of the Quell Meadows development. At Planning Commission, the owner actually got up and said he's planning a restrictive conservation easement. He hopes to keep some more kind of ag greenbelt area here. This is Dean Quell, former city council member. I'm unaware if any of that has actually been executed, but he did make that statement at Planning Commission. The areas farther west and north are part of the Jones family, and those areas are planning to continue to develop as single-family detached, unless the state comes in and says it has to be duplex. So here's a picture of the property. There are some underdeveloped streets here, and as part of that Planning Commission conditional use permit, these roads would be improved with curb, gutter, sidewalk, etc. Here's a shot showing the land, vacant, ag use. And here's the site. The Planning Commission recommended approval on this. One worthy note is Commissioner Lucero specifically made the point that commercial zoning allows medical uses. So currently someone could build a hospital or a clinic, and she feels that this is actually a medical use, that mental health should be considered medical uses. And so she specifically made that. Otherwise, they approved or voted to recommend approval 6-0. The one thing that the applicant did bring up at Planning Commission, and she's here tonight, I'm sure she's going to get up and talk, but out of this cone, there's basically 5 things that either counties or associations of government should have to help mental health, and we have 4 of the 5. The one thing that we do lack is this Green Star or this kind of receiving center, and it's essentially a short-term observation and stabilization facility that helps people through that immediate crisis, and then eventually will divert them to a better long-term destination, depending on their particular situation. She can talk more about that. Having said that, I'm done unless you have questions of me.
None for me.
No.
Tom, any questions?
No, not so far.
Right. This is a public hearing. If you would like to comment on this specific item, please come up to the mic and state your name and your place of residence. Keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Good evening. Again, I'm starting to feel a little bit like a broken record here, but just want to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to you all for allowing us this opportunity to make the request for the rezone. We kind of wish we didn't have to do a rezone, but we'll do what we need to do to get this program going. As a reminder, this program is a program that has been completely funded by the state of Utah as an evidence-based approach to crisis response for the mentally ill. I don't know if any of you had a chance to look at the governor's budget that came out this week, but he's also listed this program specifically in his budget. He's called it out by name and has indicated that they're putting more money, or at least he'd like to see more money go toward receiving centers in other places in Utah. The state is looking to Cache County to see how we're doing in getting this program up and rolling. And so I'd just like to encourage you to please vote yes tonight. We need to get going with this. Questions for me? I appreciate that each of you have tried to understand what it is. I think we have met with each of you. Not me personally, it was kind of a difficult time for me when we were doing that, but any questions that we can answer for you?
Will you just state your name for the record?
Beth Smith. I'm the director of Bear River Mental Health. Questions for me?
And if I could maybe just interject that, we just see increasing need for these services in the valley. And again, we appreciate that we have the opportunity to get funding to provide this. So I think it will be an asset for the Tri-County area once. And again, it will be a process to get it up and going, but we appreciate your efforts there.
It has been difficult locating property. It slowed us down a little bit because of the public zoning requirement, which is why we've had the money since August-ish, and we would really like to do a spring dig on whatever property we locate. Like I said, I get calls monthly. I have to sit down and meet with my state people, and I have to tell them how we're doing. So I hope that your vote is yes tonight, and I hope you know that I'm available if you have any questions that we can help you with.
Do you have room for expansion?
Yes.
Awesome.
I have no questions.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything you do every day at Bear River Mental Health.
Good evening. I'm Tim Frost, the Clinical Director of Bear River Mental Health. I appreciate your time. If I go over 3 minutes, does the trap door open and whoosh me out?
Yes, it does.
Ernesto didn't tell me to turn the timer on, so.
You can join all the other people down there.
A lot of good company, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of good company.
Good to know. I brought an extra copies of what was up on the board, plus some extra information if you or anybody else is in the audience is interested. Oh, that's the rest of it. You have it. Don't you?
It's in their
Okay.
packets.
Thank you. Oh,
Yep.
you got it. Okay. If you're going to, I can leave it out there. What I want to do is just take a couple of moments, no more than 3 minutes, about what the receiving center will do, I think, for our community. I want to focus a little bit more on what I see as happening as kind of the humanitarian response. If you're familiar with what happened to us all in the pandemic with mental health, with increase in anxiety, increase in depression, it went up, numbers went up from about 20% of the population to roughly 28% of the population. So if you look around, you do simple math, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth person has a problem, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth person has a problem. And it's for individuals that are struggling in the immediate sense, that need someplace to go to get some immediate help without having to worry about going to a hospital, being taken out of their home, being incurred, in some cases, very significant financial expenses, and sometimes individuals get arrested and incarcerated. This is a place for individuals to go to be safe, to get immediate help, to help them with their mental health crisis or substance use crisis that they're having, to allow them to stay in the community, get the help quickly, and move back into their place of residence. So I see it as a real win-win for myself and other providers within Bear River Mental Health, as well as the community. So I do appreciate your time. Any questions from me?
Same comment back to Beth. Thanks for everything you do every day at Bear River Mental Health.
Thank
It's an
you.
important service to our community.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members, mayor, and staff. My name is David Zook. I'm a Logan City resident, and I serve on the board of directors for Bear River Mental Health. And I just want to echo Beth's comments to thank you all for your help and support as we've gone through this process. And I also would like to echo the sentiment that this is a critical need for our community. We unfortunately have a very high level of need for mental health services in our community, especially when it comes to crisis mental health. Our state and our region have, unfortunately, a higher rate of suicidal ideation and other types of mental health that will be greatly supported through the services provided at the center. As we've been working on this, I've actually toured 7 other receiving centers around our state and even in other states to learn more about how we can do this well. And something that I'll just share with you that I've learned from touring these other facilities is that the staff and the leaders in those communities that I've spoken with have shared with me the positive impacts these types of facilities have had on their communities in alleviating pressure on their emergency rooms, in alleviating pressure on their jails, and in getting people a high level of care as soon as possible, which is critical in these types of situations. So I'm really happy, and thank you, Wes, for sharing this graphic about the continuum of care, because we have had some gaps in that continuum of care. We have a great traditional healthcare system here with everything from Instacare to specialized surgeons, ambulance
service, all of those things. We've been missing some of those pieces on the mental health side, but we've made great progress in recent years by adding 988, which is similar to 911, but for mental health emergencies, by having our mobile crisis outreach team, which is kind of like EMS service for mental health crisis. And now we're going to have an Instacare emergency room type facility if we can get this approved. So thank you so much for your support through this process. We look forward to getting this facility up and running as soon as possible so we can best serve our residents. Thank you.
Anyone else that wishes to speak on this item?
Are you asking me? No?
To the public.
Okay.
If not, we will bring it back to the council.
Senator Wilson, nothing to say?
It's all been said.
There you go.
I think we all understand how important it is.
I move for approval of ordinance 23-36.
I'll second it.
And before I call for a vote,
Did Tom have a comment?
no, I was going to ask a question, actually.
I did have a question, and generally I am supportive, and I attended one of the orientation meetings on this over at the Mental Health Center. The question I have is there any reason, I know that we were trying to put this in a commercial zone, which we have, is there any reason that this should not be adjacent or across the street from a detached residential zone? Is there any potential harm for the public that is more than just a general? One of the proponents could answer that.
I was going to say, I know in talking with people at Bear River Mental Health, Tom, I have no concerns about this being across the street from an NR6. And I think Justice Sarah had a good point at planning that, you know, if this was labeled a mental health clinic, it would be appropriate in the commercial zone, which is what this is currently zoned at. So personally, and things I've heard, I don't see there being an issue. I don't know, Russ, if you think there's any other.
I think you answered it well.
Yeah.
And my question was, I know that you were considering other properties in the city, in the valley. I wanted to know what made you choose this one over some of the other ones that maybe were on the table, if somebody could answer that.
So many of them, when we put our offers in, we would lose by the time we were going through the process.
Please.
I think I've listed all the properties that we've attempted to try and locate, so let me answer that accurately. 600 West and 2nd North sold out from under us before we could get anything done with that. That gentleman called us back and said, how about you buy half of it? But then we would have still had the public zoning issue there, and that probably wasn't going to be enough room for us because it was a smaller piece of property. The property by the Bishop's Storehouse, the offer expired. We offered them what they asked, and the offer expired. They actually took an offer from somebody else on that one. That was about the same size as this piece of property. We looked at some out on 10th West. We made an offer on that one, and again, they let that one expire. I had heard that they had a personal incident happen in their family. Somebody got in a wreck, and they just weren't responding to us, and it expired. At the same time, we kind of decided, based on some of our psychologists and social workers, that it was a little bit too busy of a location, 10th West. It's very busy. It's very noisy. When we went out to actually visually see the property, it was very noisy, and we just didn't know that we could mitigate that or not for the facility that we're looking at. The property a few blocks further south from this particular property, we offered what they asked. They let the offer expire, and then they came back and wanted like $2.50 a square foot more for it. So we kind of just went, no, we're not doing that one. Property by South Walmart, we didn't make an offer on that. It was priced way out of the ballpark. Property by the hotel out on the highway, we went and looked at that. It was really misshapen and not really what we felt was the best location. This particular property is about 2 blocks away from a bus stop, 5 minutes away from our mobile crisis outreach team that David talked about, less than 5 minutes away from the hospital. It's less than 10 minutes away from our outpatient facility, and it has quick access out to 10th West, which is out toward the jail and then on over to Box Elder County if we need to go over to Box Elder County. And it's quiet, and we think it will continue to be somewhat quiet. So for us, it feels like a really good location.
It's just a better spot.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote. Jeannie?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ernesto, aye. Ordinance 23-36 passes.
Get breaking ground.
Thank you.
That's for the planning commission first.
I know.
Next up, we have a public hearing on budget adjustments for resolution 23-52.
Wake up, Rich, it's your turn.
Rich?
Sorry. So I've been just over here for a while. So we have 2.5 requests. There's 3 of them, but 2 of them are actually together, the first and the second. Request to appropriate $161,253 to the general fund and $29,119 to the EMS fund for wildland deployments, reimbursements, and a request to appropriate $1,854,702 for a new ladder truck, of which approximately half of that will come back to us when 2 other trucks are sold eventually.
That'll be 3 years from now, right?
One of them needs to be sold sooner.
Wasn't it 3 or 4 years it's going to take for it to get done? Yeah, if I remember correctly.
One will be sold relatively soon, the other one will be sold when the new one comes.
And is this $1 million just general fund money, or is this money that is set aside for capital? Is it?
It's general fund dollars that are sitting in the capital equipment fund.
Okay.
So each year when we make those transfers, that's what we kind of accumulate those funds for.
So we've anticipated we're going to buy a $2 million fire truck someday.
As well as a bunch of big snowplow trucks and other sweepers and piece of equipment. We kind of put it aside so we can buy it and not lease it.
Because that's another headache for you.
Not
Now
8%.
now that they have the leasing thing and.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The capitalizing of the leases and all of that we had that big discussion about.
Terrible.
Any other questions?
No questions for Rich.
This is a public hearing. If you would like to comment on this specific item on the agenda, please come up to the mic, state your name and your place of residence. Keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Everybody wants a new fire truck.
Does it come with a Dalmatian?
Yes.
I'll put Polo on it if we need to. Polo will qualify.
I'll bring it back to the council.
I move we approve Resolution 23-52.
A second.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote. Mark?
Aye.
Jeannie?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye, if I can ride on it in one of the parades.
Oh, he wants to ride on it in a parade, okay.
Amy?
I with no conditions.
Ernesto, aye. Resolution 23-52 passes.
Tom, that was your last second.
That's why I left it open for him.
That is it for our action items tonight. We have 2 workshop items. First up, we have budget adjustments. Resolution 23-53.
This is one request to appropriate $9,620 for police forfeitures. It will be used for the replacement of equipment and also possibly for training. Anytime we have forfeitures, those can be used for any municipal purpose. However, in this case, we think it's appropriate to use this for police equipment.
So a forfeiture is cash or stuff?
Can be cash, can be, in this case, it is stuff. They are firearms.
That we in turn sell?
That we in turn sell because we're selling them to someone who can dispose of firearms, will likely be buying firearms.
Huh?
You can't just sell a gun.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you can if you get caught at that.
I have absolutely no idea about that stuff. You mean the police department can't sell a gun?
Well, anybody can sell a gun without selling the right person, right way, so.
Oh, I have no idea.
This is a qualified buyer.
Okay,
Business who buys firearms.
okay. I have no other questions.
I have none.
He put his glasses on to look over there.
I can tell if he was like looking at me, saying stop, stop, stop.
Qualified buyer.
Happy to answer questions.
No, having never sold a firearm, I have no idea how you do it.
Purchased.
Or
You can't just
purchased.
sell them to a friend. I mean, you can again, but if you get caught, that's not good.
We don't sell to a friend, right?
We do not.
We specifically don't sell to friends.
A lot of times with our equipment, we'll do, the highest best bidder, we'll put it on a website that sells those things for us. Obviously, we can't do that with this dark web.
Sorry, that was more complicated than it needed to be. I apologize.
Any other questions, comments?
No.
Emotional outbursts? No. Next up, we have Resolution 23-54. Mark, would you come and tell us about the Pace and Power project?
Look at that handsome suit.
You're last on the agenda. You beat Kurt was first. No, Kurt's usually last.
We did put Kurt first this time, didn't we?
All right. I'm trying to explain this transaction in fairly simple terms, but so UAMPS and the cities within UAMPS that are part of the Payson and the natural gas projects are entering into what's called a prepaid transaction with a very large UAMPS type entity back east called Southeast Energy Association. They're very similar to UAMPS, but they're much larger. And the idea is that UAMPS enters into a 30-year agreement to pay for energy and or natural gas. And it goes through several kind of entities. What this does is Southeast Energy Association has access to the bond-free market, right? They can get tax-free bond market. So they can get tax-free bonds. They prepay for this energy to a company called J. Aron, which is a subsidiary of Goldman Sachs. They're a commodities company. Okay? They take that.
Oh, this is getting puzzly.
Well, they take that tax-free bond money, they invest it, and they use the arbitrage to make money, right? And with that arbitrage, they sell the energy back to UAMPS at a discount, about 8% discount. So what UAMPS and Logan City brings to the table is we need to sell the energy to our customers. And why that's key is that in order for this to work under the tax code, it has to be a qualified use. And a qualified use is to sell the energy to your retail customers, which is what we do. So that's what we bring to the table. Southeast Energy Association brings to the table the ability to access tax-free bonds. And then Goldman Sachs, they're obviously making money on this transaction as well. They take those tax-free bonds, invest it, and then use that arbitrage to sell the energy back at a discount. Of course, they make a little piece of it. Southeast Energy makes a little piece of it. The resolution before you is simply to certify that we are selling this energy for a qualified use. That's all this resolution does. So the rest of this is kind of happening, I guess. Does that
So it's
answer?
like, here's the dollar, here's the energy, here's the dollar, here's the energy, here's the dollar, here's the energy.
Well, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh. But, so just as maybe some.
Where do they buy the energy?
From us.
All you talked about with the bonds.
So UAMPS assigns the existing power purchase agreements that we're going to buy energy for anyways. We assign them off to these other entities, and then they sell us the energy. And it's, like I say, it's
But
how they get access.
who sells the energy? I mean, the Southeastern group gets the bonds, but not energy.
It goes through them. It funnels through them.
What funnels through them?
The energy and the money.
Okay.
So the little drawing.
Yeah, and that's really complicated. And
It's like super
I
complicated.
didn't want to spend an hour going through this in council meeting, but I'm happy to go through it in great detail.
You might want to do that at the public hearing.
Yeah.
For this.
You think? That sounds true.
Because it's. Well, I'm just saying, I think it's a pretty complex
It is
thing.
very
It could be easily misconstrued, I think. So I think if there's a simple way to explain it.
With apples, maybe?
Or cups.
And oranges.
Or cups. Yeah, you can move the cups
The
around.
important thing to remember is the only thing that we're doing is agreeing to use the power and qualifying purpose, which we would do anyway.
Right.
That's the only thing we control. All the complexity, all the liability, all the risk is assumed by UAMPS, and they do this kind of stuff every day.
But we are UAMPS.
That is true. So we would potentially feel the repercussions. However, they do this kind of stuff every day. The only thing they need in this particular instance is for us to say, well, you have it for qualified use, which we're going to do anyway. I don't like these types of transactions because I think they're too complex. However, we're not engaging in that transaction.
We're just number 5 out of, we're the 5th step of many steps.
We're the 5th step of many steps and irrelevant to a certain extent. They have hedges, they have pre-purchases, they do all this kind of stuff every day when they're buying coal, or they're buying hydrogen, or they're buying solar energy, or they're buying anything else. They have hedges set up, and that's part of what they do for us all the time.
And it says it's paid at a fixed price.
In this case, they're coming back to us simply so that they can get the certification.
Right.
So what is a non-qualified use?
If we were to, say, sell it to USU for wholesale, I don't know why we would.
But aren't they a customer?
We're a retail seller, we're not a wholesale seller.
Oh, so a non-qualified use is just selling it wholesale.
And that keeps it legal under the tax code.
Okay.
And I will say, Bountiful City, he was the only director there that totally got this, the first explanation, because their city does this. They have a natural gas plant similar to ours, but they use it all the time. And they have done this exact transaction to save costs on their energy and natural gas. And in fact, I think they've even done it with the Southeast Energy Association. So he was completely familiar with the transaction. And I've talked with him at length. He's like, yeah, it's kind of weird when you first hear it. It's complicated, but he said it worked really well.
Okay.
So in 3 words or less, what's the advantage of the Logan City citizens?
Save money. Energy costs at a lower price.
That sounds good.
Yeah, is it 8%?
And that can move, right? So depends on their arbitrage. I think in that talking points I sent you, they reassess and also redo the bonds every 5 years. And so that 8% can shift a little bit depending on what the markets are at whatever time that is.
Significant savings.
And it's a 30-year agreement.
Correct.
I'm going to read this several times and then probably fall asleep. But I'll do my best to try to understand a little bit better.
Is there a scenario where it would actually be opposite? Would cost them more?
I mean, I'm not going to say it could never happen because anything can happen in financial markets, but I mean, the reason why all these parties do this is because they make money doing it. And if there was a lot of risk or it didn't happen 99.99% of the time, they wouldn't participate in it because it wouldn't be profitable. There's an obvious and apparent arbitrage by getting a tax-free bond and being able to invest that in markets, right? You're already up by virtue of the fact that they're tax-free. Yeah.
We're done giving you a hard time.
Yep, no more questions.
No, you're not. I get to come back next time.
No more questions.
Remember the apples for next.
If you would like to go through the detail of that spreadsheet.
I think that will be.
I will do that.
That is it for our workshop items. Thank you, Mark. Any other considerations?
I would like to say one thing. I listened to the discussion earlier, and I believe that many things were brought up that are important to the future of our city. I have been thinking lately about how we have sort of forced home ownership to the edges of our city through, rentals and multifamily and things like that. So we've sort of scooted all that out to the edges. And I think that we need to actively think about creating a vibrancy within a core of our city so that, it's not just economic development. People don't live here just for economic development because our economic development feeds other communities as well. And I think we do need to keep in mind that we need residents in all parts of our city. We need ownership. We need people invested for the long term in our community, in our neighborhoods. And I would like to work on trying to figure out how to make that happen.
I would just like to echo Mayor Dane's comments, Tom, while you're still hanging out there and we're all looking up at you.
Yeah, you're speaking from the sky.
But thank you so much. My first year on the council, you were a great role model and somebody who I view as a mentor and now as a friend, and I really appreciate everything you've done for our community, our city, and for me personally. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That was appreciated. I will tell you, it's been a marvelous 10 years. Somewhat truncated or cut off by my trip to Jordan and back. But this has been a marvelous thing. I will hopefully have a chance in some near future meeting to come and say thank you personally.
Well, Tom, you're always welcome to come and share your wisdom.
But you'll be limited to 3 minutes in the future.
And we'll miss you.
But I'll keep the time. Well,
thank you, Tom, for all your service.
I'm recovering, and it'll just be a while before I can walk in there on my own and say thank you to you personally.
I know you can do it. We all have faith in you.
Thank you. Well, I am walking, and it's just a little wobbly right now. It's a little scary, but I am walking. I actually went to 2 stores yesterday, but my wife was scared to death. But I still made it. Anyway.
Tom, it wasn't you that I saw driving that sports car, right?
What's this about a sports car?
Looking forward to seeing you and hearing you here at the council here in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We need to decide on chair and vice chair for next year.
We do that when our new council members are seated.
We usually do it in December so that we can get the ball rolling before we meet in January.
You know what though, Mark, that's always been because we haven't had changeover.
Yeah.
But when we've got new council members coming, I think they deserve a vote in who our chair is going to be.
Well, I was going to recommend that Mike be chair, but.
If that were the procedure, nobody would run in the future.
Tom, what are you saying?
I said if that were the protocol, nobody would run in the future.
All right, I am okay if we wait. That's just fine.
Ernesto, how do you feel?
We had it on the agenda, and then given the potential for a recount, we decided to take it off from the agenda. So that's the reason why. But yes, we originally were going to discuss that today.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
All I can say is Florida State got screwed.
Oh, well.
Just saying.
Just saying.
Put it in the minutes.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
And Tom, I'll be by with your chocolates in 10 minutes.
I look for it.
Thank you, everyone. Our meeting is adjourned.